All right, everyone, let's get into it. The last week has been really crazy. I think there's been a lot going on in the cryptocurrency space, in the political space, and in the economic space. And as I say all the time, all this stuff is connected, and we got to stop walking on eggshells and acting like it's not, and stop talking about it and stop worrying about who we're going to piss off or not piss off. So the first thing I want to talk about are some shots out of China in regards to the position of the U.S. dollar as the reserve currency. I think one of the outcomes where you're going to get, and you have a lot of people saying this, and I think, I don't know if it's going to be a year, I don't know if it's going to be 5 years, but I don't think the U.S. dollar is going to be the reserve currency over the long term. I just don't see how that could happen. You have China, who's continuing to increase its position in the world. You have a lot of abuse taking place because of the dollar. And I just don't see a lot of very large sovereign countries that really have the ability to defend themselves and have the economic power to not rely on the United States so much. I don't see them putting their own governments, their own regimes into this sort of position that a lot of them are currently in. So here's one of the top gold guys out of Shanghai, and he says the future global trade needs a super sovereign currency system under which no single country has the power to freeze the international assets of another country. That's pretty big. Because what you have is, and that's one of the things that the United States has always done with the dollar, is if you use the dollar, it essentially enables them to sanction you, or even sanctions countries that deal with you if you're sanctioned yourself. So it really allows the United States to abuse other countries and have a lot of leverage and power over those countries. So I think a lot of countries are getting tired of this. I think that we're not going to really last in the dollar-based system. I think the central banks are going together and do something maybe similar to like a Plaza Accord, but the dollar isn't the reserve currency. There could be some sort of SDR, IMF basket. There could be a lot of things that get discussed, and I'm not going to sit here and pretend to tell you what the answer for that's going to be, but I will tell you that it's not going to be the dollar. I just don't see it. One way or another, it's not. Could it be crypto? Maybe. Could it be some sort of stable coin like Libra has? Maybe. I doubt it. But if you listen to my public versus corporate versus government money, you're going to see that we're really headed towards this collision course with all these different types of value systems or money systems. And we'll have to see how it plays out. I think there are going to be a lot of people who don't want to sort of run their economies, not even businesses, their entire country economies under the leverage and power of the Fed and the US dollar. So the next thing I want to get into, as I mentioned earlier, the Libre Association is starting to ramp back up. You have a British payment firm, checkout.com, that's joined the Libre Association, and this is just fits into your corporate money sector. They see an opportunity to get involved. I see, Visa, there was this big run up. Everyone was talking about Libra for about 2 to 3 weeks. And then because of, once again, the U.S. regulatory structure scared everyone out, scared Visa out, scared MasterCard out, scared PayPal out, scared a lot of different entities out. But other entities are going to join. And I think Facebook's going to go for it. And I think we are going to have examples of corporate money along with government money, and then obviously public money with crypto. Right. So this is the other thing that, when the vice chair of Libra says blockchain, not crypto, that fundamentally tells you what their goals are, what they want to do. What they want to do is they just want to get all the benefits of crypto, but not actually hold to sort of the principles of crypto with decentralization, trustlessness, lack of censorship, all those sort of things. And I think that Libra is positioning itself and not even trying to fake it other than just saying, things like blockchain, not crypto. So keep a lookout for all this stuff. I know there's a lot of, gold people that I see out there, and they think like, oh, the next step that we're going to get out of this is the dollar falls apart and we're going to go back to a gold-backed currency. As I've said over and over, I just don't see that happening. It's not practical to run an economy with gold. It's not practical to do it in a trustless way. Now, Libra is going to present some sort of alternative and disrupt because of its reach and network effect fundamentally with all its users. I just don't see how gold is going to hold its place in what's really becoming a digital economy, whether it's trustless or not. The other thing, here we go. SEC's crypto mom, who's been really good for the cryptocurrency space, has a lot of good insight. She talks about the digital dollar. Once again, I hate to sound like a broken record. Public money versus government money versus corporate money. I mean, here are articles right here. Boom. Libra, digital dollar, which is essentially government money, just digital fiat. And we already know we have crypto. You can see how this stuff is sort of boiling, and at the same time really going to come to a head and clash, I think, over the next 12 months. So we really got to start paying attention to that. You have someone from the SEC that's leaving their post, and they're going to get involved with the digital dollar. I think you've got, I can't remember his name, maybe it's Giancarlo's. I think he was over the CFTC. He's getting involved with the digital dollar. So you see where this is very quickly headed. And here you have Jack Dorsey, who is sort of a Bitcoin maximalist, but even he admits that the future crypto is a global payment. That's where we're going. I think he's too Bitcoin centric, but there's a lot of people that are too Bitcoin centric. Here's Meltem Demir's Bitcoin centric. A lot of maximalists, and Bitcoin can't really do anything. You can't build a digital economy on top of Bitcoin, not in a native way. You're going to have some sort of counterparty third chain like RSK to do smart contracts. I don't see it. It's possible, but we'll see how that evolves. They're going to have to expand and change the foundation of Bitcoin if they want anything to happen. So, here we have Square talking about their position in Bitcoin, and they have helped adoption and people use it. But here you have a very powerful voice in not just the cryptocurrency space, but also just from a business perspective, the CEO of Twitter talking about crypto's position. Once again, government money with the digital dollar or the digital fiat, public money with crypto here, and obviously corporate money with things like Libra. Oh, and let me not forget, an Italian town creates its own currency because of just the lack of support of, their existing government, and how do they transact when people are isolated and people are trying different things. And I was telling somebody this on Twitter. It's just a matter of time before one single small country just says, screw it, crypto is going to be our money. Why create our own currency? It doesn't make any more sense. So look out for that. You see a town's done it, and I know that's not necessarily sovereign, and they created something called the Ducati. I love the name. They make great motorbikes. But other than that, they've pegged it to the euro here. The value will be to the euro. But these are cracks in the foundation of money and how we do that and how we represent money and the systems we can create for money. All it takes, here's 550 residents. Maybe they agree that the Ducati is worth this, and that's what they're going to do. And as countries continue to struggle and maybe some more or less fail, their currencies fail, I think you're going to see this opportunity, this game between digital fiat, Libra, and crypto that's going to battle it out with what people are going to use. And I think in the long run, obviously, we know crypto is going to be where it's at because it's more open, it's censorship resistant. Well, some coins are censorship, most coins are censorship resistant, depending on how you want to measure that. I think those are going to be where people want to go, but it's not going to be easy. Speaking of digital economies, there's a platform out there called, I think it's Zerion. When I talk about building a digital trustless economy, this is how you do it. You do it with tools like this. And I know DeFi has had some bad sort of news. It's been, had some hacks. Now, just so everyone knows, it's not Ethereum that got hacked. It was a faulty smart contract that was put out there and exploited. That's not a hack. That's an exploitation. The network is secure. Those are the facts. But at the end of the day, you got to stop thinking about smart contracts like software and start thinking about smart contracts like hardware manufacturing. You have zero room for error, but it's very early. So smart contracts, the DeFi space is going to go through its growing pains, but it's essentially trustless financial products and services that are going to displace many intermediaries that are in the financial space right now, and it's going to absolutely destroy them. No other way to look at it. So tools like Zerion here, I think, are going to be very fantastic SDKs to essentially make building blocks for all, like Uniswap, DAI, Compound, and just let you tie these things together. And this is just the first wave. I wouldn't even call this a first wave. This is like a half wave of all the great things that are going to happen, that are going to come in the DeFi space. And I don't just mean Ethereum. I think DeFi is going to take off in a lot of different ways, even outside of Ethereum, in EOS and Cosmos and Tezos and all these other platforms that actually enable smart contracts, oracles, even some governance. I think it's going to be very, very exciting. So, what Zerion's doing here, you can put together these different adapters, drag and drop, put them through the SDK, build some sort of different, DeFi products or offerings, or maybe it's a better way for you to manage your wallet. I think I'm telling you, it's so early in this space, it's not funny. So keep a lookout on all the building blocks of a digital trustless economy that are coming out in the DeFi space. Because you can think of, when you're building a new economy, what's the first thing you need to be able to do? Conduct commerce. How do you conduct commerce? You need to have, some sort of agreed upon money or medium of exchange. And in this digital economy, we want trustlessness. But the next thing you need are financial mechanisms. You need financial products. You need financial services so you can build commerce on top of that. We're laying the road for a new digital economy. So if you can't tell it, I'm just very, very excited about that. Let's get into some politics. So I was looking at this. I've been debating a lot of politics with people because there's just this sort of foregone conclusion that you have to pick between Joe Biden, or as Trump likes to call him, Sleepy Joe Biden, the guy in his basement, and your only other option between Sleepy Joe is Crazy Trump. And, I'll be the first to tell you, I don't like either of them. I think they're both terrible. They're equally terrible for a multitude of reasons. Not the same reasons, but they're all terrible. And I think one of the things people forget is that the independent voting bloc is, these vary here, 3 or 4 in either direction. I think it's safe to say that independents are about 40% of the population. So 40% of the voting population identifies as independent, but we're forced to choose year over year, or general election over election, or every 2 years. I don't care when you're talking about the election, in state and all federal races, terrible candidates. We have to pick either a terrible Republican or a terrible Democrat. They're wasting our time. We got to start thinking about better options. And, my answer to a lot of that is really just comes down to, we got to make a dent with any third party. I don't care if it's like a aggregation of third parties or just one single third party. I saw Jesse Ventura was thinking about running on the Green Party. I don't care. Vote for him. We have to make the establishment understand that from a political perspective, we're willing to not give them our votes unless they earn it. They have to earn our votes 100%. If they don't earn our votes, I don't care if you're blue or red, you're not getting my vote. Now, you would say it's hypocritical to give green your vote if you don't agree, but I think in this example, instead of just throwing away your vote to a Republican or Democrat candidate or candidates you don't like, show that you can. There's an effective way to have a third party. or a fourth party, or a fifth party, or a sixth party. This is what they do in Europe all the time. They do this in Europe. A lot of European countries have multiple parties, 5, 6, 7 parties. Now, what that forces, it forces everyone to negotiate and get things they want. But if you have a two-party system, which is really two sides of the same coin, you're not going to get anything. So we need to start to bring a crack into that foundation of the two sides of the same coin and offer another choice that you're going to force negotiation. You don't need to win with independence. You don't need to win with the Green Party. You need to be the difference between winning, right? So if you look at a lot of polls, they'll show whether it's Trump or Biden, one's 1 or 2% ahead of the other, 3%. Well, what could the Green Party do, or any third party do, if you could say, we represent 6 to 7%? What are you going to do for us? That's what we got to start talking about. That's what we got to better understand, that we can be. You don't have to win. You have to be the difference between winning and losing. And then you hold their feet to the fire and make them deliver on those promises. If they don't, then you do it again. Meanwhile, you start building up more. When I say third party, I don't mean just Green Party. I mean multiple parties, whether it's more libertarian focused, liberal focused. It doesn't matter. We need a better option than this terrible, trashy two-party system. Why? Look at this clown. Mitch McConnell says he favors letting states declare bankruptcy. He wasn't on this high horse when Boeing and United Airlines and Delta and all these other billion-dollar companies who, for whatever reason, after a week or two of shutdown, ran out of money. They're living paycheck to paycheck like most Americans. What the hell kind of shit is that? Seriously. And now, after giving away trillions to billion-dollar companies, Mitch McConnell says he favors letting states declare bankruptcy. This is the kind of bullshit that we can't tolerate. As much as everyone hates Trump, I can tell you that if you're paying attention, Mitch McConnell is the most destructive person that's been in Congress over the last 2 decades. Maybe even 3. I don't know how long he's been there. He's been there at least the last 2 decades. He's terrible. Let's bills stack up. Him and Pelosi on the Democratic side, they are basically barriers of freedom. They're barriers of anything productive happening. They're like little miniature VPs or presidents. Chuck Schumer, add him to the list. A lot of these other grandstanding or just roadblocks in Congress that keep anything from happening because we're stuck with the two sides of the same coin. Now, I'm not saying that the states should be bailed out. All I'm saying is be consistent. If you're going to bail out billion-dollar companies that have no savings and have been doing stock buybacks, then you just can't let the states fail. Because the difference between a company or corporation and a government is that the corporation's only interest is profit. Now, at least state governments, local governments, federal governments, their only interest, in theory, I'm not talking the execution is a lot to be desired, but their goal, their ambition is the people and the country. So you can't, we're going to end up in a fascist state if we let corporations have that much power. If you start letting states fail and you don't help them, but you let corporations and you give them trillions, what do you think is going to happen? Who's going to be running this country? It's going to look like a scene of idiocracy here pretty soon. It's going to be like 3 mini Brondos. Speaking of shiesty politicians, I never trusted this guy, this Jeff Weaver guy. He, there's just something I didn't like about him when Bernie was running. And now we see what's happening. He's forming a super PAC to support Joe Biden. I mean, this just shows you how awful Sanders was in, once again, running a campaign that could have gotten momentum. But, I used to be upset about the things the Democratic Party did to Sanders, but he let it happen. He never called them out. He just sat there and he took it. And if Bernie isn't willing to fight his own party or the Democratic Party as much as a lot of his supporters are, I don't think he deserves much. He started a great movement. It was a movement about change. I likened it very similar to the Tea Party movement that was started, I think, maybe about 8-10 years ago. I know that, the Tea Party movement, there's a lot to be said about that as well. But the progressive movement could have easily itself seen some sort of, use them as an example to say, look what we can do. Once again, if we can be the difference in winning. You don't have to win. You just have to be the difference. The Tea Party made itself the difference, held the Republican Party hostage to be able to get anything done. So could progressives. But you need the progressive leaders like Sanders and AOC, Ilhan Omar, to put the screws to the Democratic Party. And if they're not willing to do that, they're pretty much doing nothing. They're grandstanders. They stand for nothing other than maybe a soapbox. So here's something. I caught a very interesting article about Harvard and university finances. And I found it very hilarious. This is sort of a pity party here for it's a pity party here for, sorry. So here's something on university finances. So I don't know if you saw, Harvard, I think, took some of that Paycheck Protection Program money, and people were like, "What the hell? They have all these endowments, And and here's one of my rules: if you use words like liquidity, or illiquid, or liquidity, whatever, you can't relate to any normal person. So this whole article talks about how really, universities are struggling too. They don't have money. They have these $1 billion, hundreds of millions of dollars endowments. But the reason that they need help is because a lot of their assets are illiquid. Well, who gives a shit? Sell it for whatever you can. What does someone do who's out of work, who has no money coming in, and has bills to pay? They sell whatever they have for whatever they can get. Why can't the universities do that? They have next to no liquid assets. So what? They have assets, sell them. Somebody will buy them. That's privilege talking. Saks Fifth Avenue. It seems like every, if you remember them, I don't go to malls anymore, but if you go to the malls, you'll see that a lot of those sort of anchor stores, Neiman Marcus, Saks Fifth Avenue, Macy's, J.C. Penney's, the ones at the ends, the one that you would sort of build a mall around, almost like some sort of young or, veteran slugger if you're making a baseball team. They're preparing to go into bankruptcy. And I think you're going to see a lot of this. I mean, Amazon's already literally destroying all markets, at least for retail markets. And I would say that the retail has definitely been impacted by the pandemic. At the same time, their margins were very thin, and their model was going to die anyway. I just don't see department stores lasting very long, even if they survive this or get bailouts. I just do not fundamentally see how that's going to happen. So I think this is going to be one of the new normals, that you're just not going to see a lot of retail stores. You're going to get some boutique stores or some stores that can do some, like what was that store called? I can't remember, but they would quickly build, like H&M. They quickly identify styles and can quickly, deliver them to shelves within like a matter of like a week or 2 weeks, compared to like these department stores who deal in seasons. So stores like H&M are going to be able to thrive, and I think malls are going to look different. I think malls are going to get completely repurposed. So let's keep a lookout for that. All right, that's my update. I hope you enjoyed this latest episode. I'm going to at least do these weekly with some in between, like little quick drills on little principles, little concepts here and there. And I hope you keep listening. Please hit the subscribe button. I see that probably around 500 or so subscribers, and get notified when I release new episodes. I will do my best to continue delivering quality content, talking about crypto, politics, and economics. All right. See ya.